stop. Before you create another free lead magnet or focus on lead generation and growing your email list, I want you to ask yourself this. Have you actually activated the people who are already in your world? Those people who are already on your email list. My client Jennifer thought she needed to keep growing her email list before she could actually create real momentum, before she could actually create income and impact. She believed more subscribers would eventually lead to more clients, but that wasn't the case. What actually changed everything? Specificity. Once she got clear on the woman she was called to truly serve, and we started to extract her movement-based marketing message and created her irresistible message that wove women to that impactful yes offer, her people started to show up. Her audience started responding, not because the list suddenly exploded, but because the message and the movement and her offer finally had a connection. Women started replying to her emails, joined her community, then showed up live to what I call activation events, and they began raising their hand and saying, yes, Jennifer, I want you to help me, which allowed Jennifer to start conversations, which led to sales. That offer became Safe to Surrender, a high-touch cohort for women who need support, clarity, peace, and community because their spouse is an addict. So this is your reminder. A quiet list does not mean the wrong people are there. Sometimes it means that you just haven't activated them yet, or there's a disconnect with your message that leads to your offer. Listen to the full episode, watch the full episode here at the Kingdom Lens on Substack for the behind the scenes of Jennifer's transformation. And if you know that there is a disconnect between your offer and your messaging, or you haven't activated the right people in your audience yet, I can guarantee that you probably don't need to focus on lead generation. You need to focus on getting specificity with your message and activating the right people. And if you're looking for support on that, you can either DM me here on Substack, or you can schedule a Kingdom Business audit and we will determine together where the missing link and connection is in your business so that you can finally start to activate the right people and create impact and income here on this side of heaven. Welcome back to the Kingdom Business Revolution podcast. You do not need a massive email list to create momentum in your business. Jennifer's story is such a powerful reminder that the size of your audience and your email list is not always the issue. Jennifer didn't grow her business because she suddenly had a massive audience. She grew because she got specific, stopped speaking to everyone, and activated the people who were already paying attention on her email list, followed a clear path to clarify the woman that she was called to serve, create the right offer, and invite them personally into having a real conversation with her. In the beginning, when we first started working together, the work was really about getting specific about who her true level 10 ideal client was and figuring out whether that amazing woman was already on her email list and in her existing audience. In this conversation, you are definitely going to be blessed by hearing that you can turn a tiny email list into a paid high-touch cohort just by activating the right people. Jennifer, I'm so thrilled that you are here. Thank you so much for doing this with me. Take me back to where you were before we started working together. What was happening in your business at that point?
Thank you, Kristen, for having me on. So back to December of 2025, I was very generalized in the women that I was talking to. I was very focused on identity in Christ and speaking to women about coming out of performance and just religious expectations and things like that. And so I had been working with clients and doing all of those things. But as far as like getting responses and people activated, like I've learned from you in my email list, that wasn't happening. So like there were no responses coming back. And really, actually, I didn't even know how to activate it. I didn't know how to ask the questions. I was just sending out information pretty much and hoping that somebody would reply, and like thinking, oh, this is great. Surely people are going to listen to this. So yeah, there was a lot of general information going out, and I wasn't focused on exactly the woman that I needed to be focused on, which is who I am talking to now.
Yeah, exactly. I remember our conversation when you reached out and were looking for support. I met Jennifer, oh my goodness, probably a year ago before that, or maybe even a year and a half at one of the collaboration events that I hosted. She participated in one. And when we started having the conversation on how I could help her, she she knew she needed help, but she didn't necessarily want the longer packages that I had put together.
Mhm.
So instead of saying, okay, we'll come back when you're ready, I knew that I could help her just from looking at her lead magnet, her messaging, and what she was trying to bring into the world. I knew that there was a messaging disconnect. So I
Mhm.
knew that if I could just get her on a session with me, we could really pinpoint what that leak was in the messaging and kind of really dig in and extract who her level 10 ideal client with absolute specificity would be. So instead of saying, and this is a tip for all of you amazing business owners listening, instead of saying, "Oh, nope, you're not fitting into this box," make a customizable offer to someone because you never know where that's going to lead into what you're doing. You're the expert and you can actually help them. So I was like, well, how about we do a 30-day container? We meet bi-weekly, and then you have Boxer access to me. And all of my higher ticket containers come with a complimentary onboarding session because I really want to get to know you, get to know your business. And I think it was just in that onboarding session, just that first session together, where the clarity happened. The questions that I asked were able to extract who it is that you were really called to serve and who your spirit and soul really wanted to help here on this side of heaven. So, what was that? How did that shift feel when you looked at your email list and you're like, I have a small one compared to what the world says that you need to have? And I want, correct me if I'm wrong. Did you have 160 on your list?
I had about 300 at the time, which still, yeah, small. But yeah,
Yes, very small.
yeah,
Um, and what did you believe about that number? Was that holding you back in how you were showing up?
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I believe that my goal was to grow my email list and that I just needed to keep creating good free resources that were going to get people to want to sign up and then add them to my email list. So that was really my focus when I met you, was trying to do that because yeah, I thought that I needed a large list to make anything happen.
Yeah. And I know from experience that that's not the case. So, like I said, Jennifer, we need to get absolute specificity on who it is that you're called to serve. So, we narrowed that messaging down to the Christian wife dealing with and loving a spouse that battled addiction. We aligned your lead magnet and we started to activate your email list, really change the messaging and speak into who that you're called to serve. The strategy wasn't to build a complicated funnel, it was to activate relationships you already had and bring people into your world so that you could start to have a conversation with them. So did we how did we change everything and how you started to use your email list, your
Mm-hmm.
Facebook community, and those conversations? What changed
Yeah.
as we started to activate them and you started to actually have conversations with real people?
Well, the first thing that changed was people started responding to me in my email. I was like I was recognizing that there were women already there that were Christian wives of addicts. Their husbands were struggling with addiction. I didn't even know that who all was there because no one was responding. And so those women started coming out of the woodworks. And it was exciting to know that I already had them there in my community. And also even just like it felt good to not, there was no pressure to have to keep building this email list. Like I could work with what I had, which felt really good and less pressure, you know? So I love that. So then once I started inviting them into my Facebook community and that started growing, and I did shift, you know, I had to make a shift in because I had created this Facebook community around identity in Christ. But, you know, it felt good to recognize that I was talking to the right woman. Like I felt confident in it. It just felt I just felt relief because for so long, I even struggled to answer the question, like, you know, when you're talking to people and they're like, even other coaches, and they're like, well, who's your ideal client? Who do you talk to? And I'm like, I would always have to like really think about it, like, because it felt so complicated in my head and how to explain it. So now, like, oh, I know exactly who I talk to, and it doesn't feel stressful to even try to figure that out. So yeah, I just felt confident. It felt good. It felt right. And I knew that I was now speaking to the right woman.
Yeah. So we were able to move you into specificity, which changed everything. It moved you from sending emails and hoping that people would reply or hoping that someone would resonate with that message into speaking to that direct person specifically. And then using a strategy that I call activation events to bring them into your world, where you add massive value live in front of them so they can either show up live and listen to or catch the replay, but through a strategy where you're actually activating them, getting them to raise their hand and say, yes, that's me, which leads to conversations where we weave in that be a human first framework, where we start to have conversations with real humans to see what their problem is and if they are ready for that next step with us. So like I mentioned, the strategy wasn't to build a complicated funnel. It was just to activate them, add value, make an offer, and activate them again to raise their hand and say, yes, that's me, which allowed you to have those conversations. So how did those conversations that you were having with those amazing women lead to putting together your program, Safe to Surrender?
Well, once I started doing the live activation events and women were showing up, they were commenting and sharing things that they were going through. It just created great conversations that we were having there, but also in messages. And so that just felt very validating. And, you know, I'm talking about my story. It's stuff that I know because I've lived it. So all of it was just falling into place. And so then I just remember us working through all the different pieces of the program that we put together, and you just asking me all the questions and pulling the information that was already inside of me, but just helping me organize it. And I'm just, relaying things that I've experienced that I know these other women have experienced. And so when we did that, it just fell into place and it just felt good. It was so helpful knowing that you helped me organize all of that too. And like you asked me all the questions that needed to be asked for me to even come up with like the 4 pillars in my program, And so that was super helpful. Just being able to say what I needed to say. You extracted the information from me and you helped me put it all together into something that made sense.
Yeah. And I think that we hold ourselves back a lot when we try to do this on our own. We know, but we're too close to our God-given genius zone and what makes us different. And we can actually take and extract that, like Jennifer was saying, and create your offer matrix in 90 minutes or less. And something that would normally take, it took me months to do in the beginning of
Yeah.
my business in 2019, 2020. So if you're listening and you're like, oh my goodness, we went really fast. She started working with me in January of 2025. Just in those 30 days, she had a client come in and pay her for services. And she's like, oh my goodness, this worked. So she renewed for, I think, another 3 months and then another 3-month package. So what she was putting into place, she actually took action, did what I told her to do without second guessing, there might have been some overwhelm, some confusion because she was learning something new. But Jennifer did what she needed to do and she got the results that she needed to get, which is super exciting because when you do the thing and do the strategy that works, you get the results. So when we put together your safe to surrender and we really started to hone in on helping those women become that anchored wife, painting that future paced identity of where they're moving from survival mode to peace. And we shaped that offer. When you started to plant the seed that you were opening your founding member program, I remember that first message you got, hey, I have someone that signed up. And I
Yes.
believe you had 9 people that joined the VIP priority list. How did that actually feel?
It felt great. It felt validating, like, okay, I'm actually putting something together that people want and need. And so, and also even like, when we're using our own stories and that we go through things and we're trusting that God's going to use it for something good. And so knowing that I get to share my story and the things that I've learned with these women, it's just, there's so many great things that come from that, right? Like, so just, it was very, very validating. And I think helps me in my own healing journey as I'm getting to talk to these women too and help them. It continues to help me on my journey.
Yes, amazing. I love that.
Yeah.
Instead of hiding behind a sales page, right? We just put together a simple, this is what we're going to do. This is a transformation that you're going to get. You personally invited the women who you were already in conversation with, those that were already showing up. So the offer felt intimate, specific, and timely based on what they needed. And by, I think, May you had ran your first live session with the women that were there that made the leap to join the cohort. I think there was five or six.
Yes.
Amazing.
Well, 6, including me. So yes.
Five. And
Yes.
that percentage is absolutely amazing. Actually, I didn't even break down that percentage, but you had 9 on that VIP priority list that wanted that, and then 5 that joined. I mean, that's almost 50%. So
Yeah.
that 50% conversion rate is unheard of in the online space, especially in today's age. So this goes to show that you don't need quantity, a massive amount of people in your email list or in your launch in order to have a successful launch, offer, or beta founding member program. You just need to activate the right people. It quality over quantity. And I think the bigger transformation here is that Jennifer learned how to listen to her people, how to listen to the market, how to track the conversations and build an offer from real needs and invite her people personally into the cohort. And now she's eventually will walk away with more than a cohort. She now has a repeatable process, an asset that she created in order to do this all over again, to activate her audience, bring in more people that she's called to serve, invite them personally into her Safe to Surrender program, and deliver that transformation. So when you showed up at that first live session with them, how did that feel? And I know that you said the women there they already started to shift.
Yeah. Yeah, it felt great just because, when I asked them how they were feeling at the beginning and they were, anxious and fearful and nervous. And then at the end, when they were sharing that they felt seen and connected and, valued, there's just so much power in just showing up in community. Right. And so, and we didn't even, I mean, that day was just basically getting to know each other and kind of each person getting to share a little bit about their story. So it's not like we even did a whole lot, but yet their feelings shifted just within that hour, which felt amazing because that's what we need.
Yes, amazing. So
Yeah.
for the woman listening right now, for the businesswoman listening, what would you say to someone who thinks that they need to have the big email list before they can even launch their founding member program?
I would say you don't need that. Obviously, you need to use what you have and get help. Talk to Kristen. She will help you because it's amazing what can shift when you just ask somebody to come alongside of you and help, really. Like if I would have had to work on that Safe to Surrender program on my own, I would probably still be working on it right now, trying to figure out like what all the pillars are, because it would have taken me forever. So there's just so much value in getting help from someone who knows what they're doing, like you. And so, yeah, you absolutely don't need a large email list. My email list is growing a little bit. It's still not huge, but it's, there's still women responding to me that are already there, which I think is pretty amazing. So, yeah.
Yeah, amazing. Thank you so much for sharing. And for the woman listening who is resonating with your story, she may have a spouse, someone that's in her family that deals with addiction, and she's maybe thinking, gosh, I could really use Jennifer's support. I'd like to get into her world. Do you have a resource or a lead magnet that you would like to promote? And then at the end below here, I'll link up every way that you can connect with Jennifer. But would you like to talk about your resource?
Yes, absolutely. I have a guide that you helped me create that is for wives of addicts that just helps them move from that chaotic survival mode place to a place of peace and clarity. And so that is my free resource that I would love to offer. And it has some journaling questions in there and just some space to write and pray and talk with God about what they're going through. And then I also have my free Facebook community where the wives of addicts come together to connect and share and talk and just receive validation. There's so much power in just being seen and heard. So, yes.
Amen. Thank you so much for that. Well, Jennifer's story proves that a small email list is usually not the problem. It's an unactivated list. And when your message is clear, the offer is specific, and the follow-up is personal, 300 people can become more than enough to create momentum in your business by God's design. Before we leave today, would you like to leave our amazing listeners with any last-minute words of wisdom?
I would say, like, when I remember thinking back to when I first reached out to you, I was unsure of who I really wanted to talk to. And I don't know why I had put off focusing in on the wife of an addict. I mean, that is my story, but it was like once I talked to you about it and you helped me just realize that is the woman I need to be talking to. It just felt so good and I had so much relief and I just knew it was what I was supposed to do. And so inviting somebody into your world to help you process that stuff and figure it out, because we can't figure it out on our own a lot of the times. We need somebody to walk alongside of us. So that would be my encouragement, is reach out and ask somebody to help you. Ask Kristen to help you, because you're so good at extracting that stuff out of us and pulling out. You did that for me. You pulled out of me what was already there. I just needed help putting it all together, So yes, that's my word of encouragement. Do that. Get some help.
Jennifer, this has been so amazing. I appreciate how you added value to the audience today. And for those of you wanting to connect with Jennifer, all the links will be below. Thank you. Have a great day.